So if you're a Christian and you're looking for good apologetics, don't go to cross-examine. Don't listen to Frank Turk. Um, if you are sincerely intending to apply these apologetics in an actual conversation with an atheist, either you're talking to somebody who just doesn't care about religion. They're religion just doesn't affect their lives. They don't care about it at all. But if you're talking to an atheist who um has put time, thought, energy, and effort into making our arguments counter apologetics, Frank Turek's arguments are so easily dismantled. He gives his audience advice, thinking that to his audience his advice makes perfect sense, but that's because it's his audience. His audience already agrees with Frank. They haven't applied Frank's apologetics in their everyday conversation with whomever they may be trying to converse with. So to them, it sounds really good. They're like, oh man, that's great, because it's affirming something that they already believe. But if you were to take Frank Turek's arguments and apply them
district attorney
in any type of real life conversation with an atheist who has spent some time learning about this kind of stuff, you're just going to look silly. So, I mean, it's just a word of advice. Don't listen to Frank Turk. He has such bad arguments. But anyway, I want to go over this video. The video is titled, "Who Has the Burden of Proof in an Argument?" And the burden of proof is very simple. If you make a claim, you must prove it. And that's pretty much it. I mean, if you're willing, of course you don't have to, but if you're going to make a claim, then yeah, it's on you. You got to provide the proof. You got to provide the evidence. You have to do the convincing as to why your argument is correct. You have the burden of proof if you've made the claim. But let's see who is this guy? Greg Kokel, standtoreason.org. Who has the burden of proof in an argument? Let's find out.
His job to prove that you're guilty. It's not your job to prove that you're innocent.
So I mean, right off the bat, yeah, he had it exact. Well, I mean, not necessarily. Hold on. Let's
your job to prove that you're innocent. To prove that you're guilty, it's not
the DA's job to prove that you're guilty. Not necessarily. I don't want to nitpick too much because I think I get what he's trying to say, but you don't have to prove guilt. You just have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, because under no circumstances could you absolutely 100% without a doubt prove that somebody is guilty. There's always that weird, minute, minuscule chance that maybe they didn't. Even if you have videotape of somebody committing a crime, maybe the videotape was altered, doctored, probably not, but hey, it's always possible. So you don't have to prove that they're guilty. You just have to prove that they're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Reasonable being the key word there. And he's correct. You don't prove that you are innocent. That's not the thing that happens. He's correct. Yeah.
Not your job to prove that you're innocent. It's the responsibility that somebody has in the conversation to give reasons for a point of view, an argument or something like that, rationale evidence. Okay, so who bears the burden? And here's the way the rule works. Whoever makes the claim bears the burden. Whoever makes the claim bears the burden.
Did Frank Turk just agree, or did he just receive information like he didn't know this? He didn't say he said and I just find that strange because Frank Turek makes a lot of claims, but I don't think he understands how the burden of proof works, because he doesn't prove the claims that he makes.
So if somebody makes a claim, especially if it's controversial, well, this politician, he's on the take. All right. Well, wait a minute.
He's on the take. Anyway, especially if it's controversial. No, it doesn't matter how controversial a claim is. If it's a claim, you bear the burden of proof. It doesn't matter if it's yeah, I bought a new pair of shoes today, or I flew to the moon today. They're both claims that you are making. They both, it doesn't matter if it's controversial or extraordinary or weird or bizarre or normal. It's the burden of proof is the burden of proof. It doesn't change. You don't have a burden of proof just because your claim is controversial.
Okay, that's a pretty bold claim that you're making against another person.
Right.
It becomes the responsibility of the person making the bold claim to
It's just, why is he adding in this bold claim, especially coming from a Christian apologetic, you know, because that's all they make as bold claims. All of their claims are very bold. All of their claims are supernatural, or they just have a very, very, very heavy burden of proof. I don't know why he keeps adding the boldness to this, because it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter if it's bold or not, like I just said. Curious why he's adding
defend the bold claim. Okay. And the way this works out in conversation, it's not, if you're accused of a crime, it's the district attorney's job to prove that you're guilty. It's not your job to prove that you're innocent. All right.
Mhm.
Basic concept. Everybody understands it, but they don't apply it oftentimes in conversations, because what the atheist will do, or the skeptic or the non-believer will do, will
or the skeptic or the non-believer,
conjure up some
we'll-
kind of alternate worldview or situation. They'll say,
okay, all right. So I don't know. I mean, there's not much left on this video, but I don't know where he's going with it. I've never once in my life conjured up some kind of alternate worldview or situation. What does that even mean? To conjure up some sort of alternate? If you're talking about does God exist, the atheist most likely will be taking the stance that they're unconvinced that a God exists, not positively asserting that a God does not exist. Because that you're making a claim. Now you have a burden of proof to which, to the best that I understand, you cannot meet, because maybe a God exists, especially depending on your definition of what God might be. But what does this have to do with the burden of proof?
well, I can explain that. And then they'll offer an alternate view. They'll make a claim contrary to yours. Then it feels like the Christian has the responsibility to refute that view, when in fact, it's not our job to refute that view. It is their job to defend it. And that's why at this point, I always ask this question: how did you come to that conclusion? Well, I'm not going to try to refute that.
To what conclusion? He didn't offer.
It has the responsibility.
He didn't offer up an argument. What can come to what conclusion? What, I mean, what's the claim from an atheist that he wants the answer to
refute that view, when in fact, it's not our job to refute that view. It is their job to
I mean, yes, he's correct, but what is he talking
defend
about?
it. And that's why at this point, I always ask this question: how did you come to that conclusion?
What conclusion? How many times has he been in this situation where an atheist comes up with just some claim, and he has to ask them how they came to that conclusion? Because how many claims could you possibly be making as an atheist except for the one, I don't believe God exists? What other claims could there be? To which I mean, how did I come to that conclusion? Well, I mean, it's not a conclusion that I came to. It's just simply a belief that I lack. It's not a conclusion. It's an open book. It's open for discussion. It's open for dialogue. It's not set in stone. I could be convinced that a God exists, sure. But as far as I can tell, there's absolutely zero reason to believe that a God exists.
Conclusion. Well, I'm not going to try to refute them first. That's giving them a free ride. First, I'm going to try to get them to give me the reasons for their view. And again, the ball.
What view?
Listen.
What view? I don't believe a God exists. That's not a view. That's just a belief that All right. Well, I was kind of expecting a little bit more from that video. Who has the burden of proof? The person making the claim. That is correct. Um, I just thought maybe they'd get into a little bit of something to do with a because Christians make these uh claims often of God existing, of Jesus, of resurrection. I mean, there's so many things that are bold and controversial, but they don't meet their burden of proof. But yet they felt that they should put out a video explaining that they have a burden of proof, and then they're not meeting it. I don't know. I guess it's a little weird, but all right. Well, that's a short one. Gonna go ahead and end it.